You can say what you want, but I never been scared. Never been scared. Never been
Welcome back to the Morning Sports Podcast with our Part 2 episode with Krystal Jackson. Thanks for joining. Now let's start the conversation.
Yes.
Okay. So sophomore year in,
Yep.
back to AAU, right?
Back to AAU, same thing, same transition. This time, this is when I get to meet, Sue Bird, Swim Cash, all the girls that played up north. We ended up playing with them, gave them a beat down, and really, build friendships then because they were actually doing a travel thing with the USA junior team.
Okay.
And we was like, didn't nobody tell us where was these tryouts at, So we was all upset, because we like we just beat them. How none of us made the team? So um, that was funny. They were like, "Nah, y'all good," That's how we kind of ended up getting to know them. And like I said, that's where you start building those friendships across the nation uh, when you get to travel and things like that. So
Right. Well, and I think basketball was looked at that time. Basketball looked a little differently up north than it was in the south.
absolutely,
Like,
you
I hate to say that,
you
but
can't play till you get down here. You meet all these corn-fed girls, and you see what we're doing for sure. Because they were known as Christ the King, I think was the name of the number one girls basketball team in the nation at that time, and that's when we found out that Southwood was now ranked as number 24 in the nation, and I was like, man, we need to meet up with them and let's really see
so,
who really got it. So
hey, we don't need a gym. Just find something outside. We can.
find something to see what you got. Absolutely. Yes.
Right. So how does that AAU season end?
So we went to nationals, but we
Okay.
didn't win. But it was definitely a lot of fun. That was the first black eye I
Mm,
got.
okay.
In there was a girl who was 6'5", and she had a ponytail that probably touched her butt, and so she was swinging it a lot. And I wrapped my hand in it and pulled it. It was like okay. And as I was running through, she was like creating her move and hit me right in the corner of my eye, and I ended up getting a black eye
Mm,
for the first time. And I thought
wow.
that was like, I was like, oh my god, like this is what we do. But yeah, so um, after that, like you said, I was back at it. Like I said, when at this time, now I'm driving. I mean, I have my own car. I was driving before, but my mom actually got me a car,
Mhm.
so I was able to go on base and play more. So I was going to
Ah,
play with the military guys and stuff on base.
okay. So as this junior year gets started, like I said, obviously kind of fell short that sophomore season. Are you guys practicing any different? Is there different different expectations because you kind of fell short just so little?
I think it was we came in hungry. We knew that we should have won. So we really came in real focused, different energy. You could see it on our face. We really wanted to go undefeated that year. We lost one game, but we had a different mindset. And coach started our preseason off with us playing in Texas.
Okay.
So that's where the transition of us starting our preseason off in Texas. So no one in district could see us. So we would go and play Texas team because they were harder to play because they had such great talent pools and such a wide range of people. Um, we started there. We'll go in there, and we could kind of feel how we were going to do with our district to see how we would get in the playoff. What seed we would get.
Hmm. So how did you feel like you matched up as far as like individually? I know the team did well overall when you guys went out there, but like how did you feel like you matched up individually?
Individually, well, from my freshman year as well as my sophomore year, because of my height, coach allowed me to play all five positions.
Mm.
So it didn't matter who was on the court. I had to be able to know what that position did. So matching up well was never hard for myself. It just depended on who was guarding me. If I felt like a smaller player was guarding me, let me take them down low. If I felt like they were bigger, let me bring them outside. So it really made my game uh, pretty much whole versus it being kind of sporadic here and there. It was basically, I think, full circle because I had to play all five.
Right. Okay. So as the junior, your junior year kind of starts on, and I guess just from my perspective, as far as like just the consistency that you've gotten from the coaching staff, like how much coaching does Coach McDowell need to do at this point with like you and Tanisha and things of that nature?
So at this point, all five of us came back.
Okay.
So, all five starters are back, plus those that were there prior. Now we have an addition to Elena to the team.
Hmm.
So it was good to see because now you got Elena, Nicosa, Karanda on the team. So now we're kind of filling out in more spots.
Hmm.
So we can really take breaks. We were able to take some breaks our sophomore year, but he was really trying to get us to mesh well with each other, get to know each other. So we played a little more during those times. But our junior year is when we learned how to ride the bench. So if we blew a team out in the first quarter, we knew we was coming to sit down the second quarter. We had to take stats. That's where he really showed us how to be humble and
Hmm.
cheer for your team, you know, and let them know because we're gonna need them down the line. So get them prepared. So let them know that you're the same way they cheer for you, cheer for them. So that really was harness at that time for us. So
So in the beginning, as that's happening, is that an easy transition for you? Because like as a player,
no, I don't think for any of us, we would sit down there and take the stats and clap, but at the same time, we were like, "Hey, coach, put us back in. Like, ain't what's going on? Can we get in the game? And he'd be like, cheer for your team. I don't want to hear, be quiet. And it was tough. It was tough. A few of those games, it was tough because it was like, man. But he would definitely, like I said, coach was a great speaker, so he would always make it so that you understood that, hey, we're going to need them down the line. Like what happened that sophomore year can't happen this year. We need to make sure that they're prepared to be able to step in to finish out if anything happens. So get them ready for it. So that's how they kind of went about. Don't get me
right?
wrong. If you had an attitude with coach and you was a starter, you might not start that whole first and second quarter. It was a couple of games where I had to sit out a whole first quarter because I might have had an attitude in practice or something, and I would have
Might
to sit
might have.
might have had. I don't think it was a. I don't think it was an attitude, but it might have been something that I didn't agree with. But make you sit right next to him, and he could feel it. I know he could feel the energy. Like, come on, put me in, put me in. Ooh, put me in. I can't. He'd be like, go in. But he make you wait that whole first quarter or those 2 quarters. Like, it was not. It was no negotiating. It was no
Right.
negotiating. And you better go in and do your job when you went in.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
yes.
All right. But so those players, like, I guess at that point, you know, even as a sophomore, like you're just looking at the game a little differently. But this junior year, I guess with you got two sets of classmen that are under you. Like, are
Hmm.
you taking on a little bit more of a mentorship role at that point?
Absolutely. So
Hmm.
both of them I already knew. Elena's my god sister, and then Nicosa also went to the church. So all three of us went to the same church. So
Okay.
we had a lot of stuff, youth days and stuff. So we were always together. So um, that was pretty easy to make their transition. I feel like into the basketball program because they had us to kind of look up to as well as understanding that we would tell them, hey, you can't come here with this. You got to do A, B, C, and D. Make sure your grades is up. And like I said, Elena was a straight A student. I believe Nicole was also an A, B student. So it was a pretty much easy transition from
Hmm.
there.
So with having a relationship with those ladies so early on, like were you guys practicing different places, like other than school?
Practicing, we was playing pickup for
Pick
sure.
up.
Yeah,
Okay.
we were playing pickup for sure. Definitely.
Mhm.
We were either playing at their house, they was at my house, or we was going somewhere. I would say, hey, y'all, are y'all good? Can y'all get out? I'll come pick y'all up. Let's go play. So it was definitely nonstop. all the way around.
Okay. All right. And as you like you say, you get into that junior year, you're spending a lot more time, you know, cheering on your teammates.
Yes.
Did you feel like you maybe were not going to be in shape? You know, not playing the reps or anything like that of that nature?
No, we
No.
had too much in practice. The
Okay.
game really became practice for us,
Mhm.
so we understood what was going on. So no, we wasn't worried about being in shape because we played too much. We like I
Okay.
said, basketball was a consistent thing. Once we
Mhm.
practice, we would go play, we would go run, do anything afterwards. So staying in shape was pretty simple, pretty
Okay.
yes.
All right. So as you get into that junior season and into the playoffs, obviously, like you said, you have these younger players that are gotten a lot of reps during the season.
Yeah.
Um, does that bench shrink during that junior season? Even though they played a lot, does the bench shrink during the playoffs?
The bench didn't shrink
Okay.
during the playoffs. Our time increased.
Mhm.
But again, like I said, if we would blow people out in the first quarter, we already
Mhm.
knew what was happening. It really would have to be a tough game for us to actually be in there. And coach was one of those coaches where he liked you to win with grace. So it was never you're gonna just demolish, just blow someone out to smithereens. You won with grace. So he felt like 25 to 30 points was a graceful win
So
versus where we knew we could get to 100 easily. Um, but no, he didn't want that to happen. He would always tell us win with grace.
so how did he take the foot off the gas, like, or how did he communicate that to you guys that he wanted you guys to back
So
off?
if you ever had the opportunity where you would see us, where he called pass the ball 5 times, pass the ball
Hmm.
10 times.
Hmm. Yeah.
Hold on.
Okay.
I told you, sure. I told you I didn't care. Yeah. What you getting? That's fine. Just make mine medium well. Thank you. That's my brother.
No problem.
Can you edit that out?
Got you covered, right?
If you ever seen us where we pass the ball 5 or 10 times before we score, that was something that we would do in practice. So to slow it down, to run the clock out, you'll see us making multiple passes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And that's how he would kind of control the game.
Mhm.
So either you're going to foul us or you're going to let us run this timeout with us passing the ball so many times before. Because he would get to a point where he'd be like, pass the ball 5 times before you score. Because he
Right,
could see, I guess their talent level.
right, right. So how was that as like you said, got around maybe in the city and you were playing in different areas and you were running into some of these girls around in the city? Like how were those conversations?
Well, you always had your friends that talk noise, like especially if we was gonna play bird.
Mhm.
We're gonna beat you this year. Y'all better be ready when y'all come and da 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 da. And we'll just smile. We'll see you when we get there and everything. So, um, and that was pretty much every team that we played in this year. We had friends on each of those teams that you know would always have something to say, but we would
Mhm.
just kind of blow them out. Even to Booker T one year, we had a lot of them. We knew Sharice and Taisha, um, some of those girls on the team, and they was like, "Yeah, y'all scared to play us. You know what I'm saying? When we play y'all, we gonna blow you out." So coach set it up so we can play Jamboree. Let's see where your mouth at. And I think we blew them out so bad in the Jamboree. It was just like, don't you say nothing to us for the rest of the year. So you would hear those, and people. I think people got tired of us winning too. Also, we had such a huge crowd
Mhm.
that would show up to where they would have to lock, the pretty much the gym down
Yeah.
because the fire marshal said, y'all just have way too many people, coming to your games. We have people lining the walls.
Mhm.
Um, so it would um it would be exciting. Like you'd be like, in the huddle when we talking to each other out on the court, like, man, we got to come ready. We got a crowd here. To the point where they started switching our games to the 7 o'clock game
Mhm.
versus the 6 o'clock game. So we would switch with the boys definitely on those big games for like Bird, Huntington, Northwood. So
Right, absolutely.
definitely.
So as you get into playoffs junior year, like how did that start? How did that finish for you at junior season?
So for the we ran through everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I we ran through like nothing. We came up on that team in the semifinals that we lost to, and we blew them out. If
So
you if
how?
you would have looked at it, we won the championship then. That was our championship game. When I tell you we did everything right to win that game, man, we blew them so hard. It was just that was our championship because we ended up playing I think Bird for the championship or
Yeah.
Slidell, one of them. But those games to us didn't even matter. As long as we blew that team out, that was it.
And was that right? That whole team came back other than
Yes,
the okay.
yes,
Oh,
and we
wow.
blew it out the water.
So y'all guys just had a whole nother level of focus
I
that
mean,
game.
if you could see that tape where when we won that game, we was running around the court like it was the championship game. We didn't like focus. We got another game to focus on, but we was too excited. We were so excited that we won that game that it didn't
Uh,
even.
yeah. Well, and I think coach probably at that point was like, all right, go ahead.
Right? He's like, go on,
Like,
yeah. He's like, go on and get it. I know y'all excited. Go on. So yes, for sure.
all right. All right. So, I'm gonna say it back to AAU, right?
Back to AAU, like I said, go to nationals, didn't win. Um, Started back up the season. Like I said, we just playing basically. Um, I think this time I ended up actually when the season was over for AAU, I actually got a lifeguard job at the
Oh, okay.
what was that? Is that South Side or Southern Hills?
Southern Hills.
I
Oh, the
was
pool. The
right
pool. Yeah, that the pool. Right.
there. I was there, and I probably only lasted a week because I was like, I can't sit out here with this heat. No, it's too humid. So I probably lasted about a good week, and then I went and got a job at the Dollar Tree in the mall, in South Park Mall at that.
Yeah.
So
That was the spot, right?
yes,
Back in
yes.
Okay. All right. So, like I said, I guess, looking at your seventh, eighth grade year, freshman, I mean, you've basically been in the championship game every single one of those years. Like, looking back at it now, do you think you were kind of taking some of that for granted and how easy it was for you to get to the championship of a city or a state?
I'm sure. You're young. You're not living in the moment and really having an opportunity to take it all in. You just kind of like this supposed to happen.
Mhm.
So that's kind of how it almost like who gonna beat us. You
Right.
have to put in who's gonna beat us type thing.
Mhm.
So yeah, you definitely take it for granted.
Mhm.
It's not until you get in your later years and you go, wow, we really created something.
Mhm.
When you actually start to look at what you actually uh, left as a mark at your school.
Right. Right. Okay. So, starting up this senior campaign, um, obviously, you want to go out like you came in.
You want to, for sure. You definitely want to go out. Definitely.
uh, and I'm assuming that at that point, probably, I guess, real estate probably during your junior year, you're starting to get some more additional attention individually.
You
So
sure? I
like,
started getting it actually my sophomore year is when I started receiving letters
okay,
from different colleges and things like that.
so how was that process managed? And like, did you get feedback? I guess I'm asking, did you get feedback from other players? I know you probably got feedback from your coach, but like, how was that process managed between like you and your mom?
So it would be some of the with AAU, they have your information. and then they also have your school information. So there were a lot of my letters went to my house, so my mom managed a lot of that for me. The ones that did go to coach, he would give them to us, um, and he would pretty much, tell us and walk us through the college programs and things like that. He would also, let you understand how recruiting works, um, and what you could and couldn't do. So he kind of laid out the blueprint, but my mom was already flipping through the manuals and the books of those of my cousins that played, and what they went through. So she pretty much had it laid out on how the process was.
Okay, so you just to make sure I'm clear. So you actually sat down and had a conversation with your coach about the recruiting process.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
We sat down with all of us, I believe. I know for myself, me for sure,
Hmm.
of how that process was going because it was from my understanding from him is that he was getting a lot of calls and a lot of um, mail trying to see when could they come to our practices and who is she's interested in and things like that. So he would pretty much be that buffer for us a lot of times because they knew that they could talk to us directly.
Right.
So he would, but he made sure that we got all our mail and things like that.
So how did you kind of take that in as like you said, you just out there playing, you know?
Yeah, I'm just playing
So
this time. Now the WNBA is starting, so it's kind of
right.
like, do I love this game that much?
Mhm.
'Cause this kid that big, every girl's like, I'm gonna be the girl that goes to the NBA that loves basketball.
Mhm.
For them to start up a WNBA at that time, where now we're going into my senior year, um, it was like, okay, we have something else to look forward to outside of just playing college basketball. So it was pretty exciting because I personally, because of how coach coached us and the way he taught us as a team, we didn't really look at individual stats.
Mhm.
It wasn't until the newspapers would put that stuff out. So my mom was keeping up with all of the articles, but myself, no. So
Right.
he coached teams so much, you never
Mhm.
thought about what you did individually. So when you're coming out and you're the number one in the city, you're like, how that happen? Where did that happen? Or you number one in the state,
Right.
you ranked in the nation. You're not seeing that because he made sure we was focused so much on team than individuals. Uh, it wasn't like a staple of how many points and rebounds and
Right.
things like that you were getting. They would make it more of that
Mhm.
because the newspapers were consistently at our practices,
Mhm.
wanting to take pictures and interview and if we had to talk to the news, he would pull us to the side and always talk about the team. Always talk about the team. And be like, oh, we got you, coach, no problem. So if you go back and ever look at some of those things, you'll see us talk about team more than anything than ourselves.
Right. Well, I guess more along you guys are measuring W's and L's.
Yes.
that's that's the only stat that mattered at the end of the day.
Yes, that's all that matters for sure.
But like you were mentioning earlier, like how did you take kind of being asked to be interviewed? Like that's a whole little deal in itself. Like because you like you said, you just here playing the game that you love at the moment.
Yes.
Now somebody wants to interview you about it. Like how do you take that at that age?
At that age,
Mm-hmm.
it would make you nervous, you know, because I'm not one that wants to speak about myself anyway. So um, when they try to curve those answers for you to say something different, with him already kind of coaching us on what we needed to pretty much, keep the focus on, made it easy. But it was never, I would never want to, like, why Tanisha can't go? He was like, because they asking you. But I'm like, well, can she come with me? And vice versa. We always kind of like it to where, can
Right.
we all go together?
Mm-hmm.
We didn't really want to deal with the newspaper alone or the
Mm-hmm.
cameras alone. So,
Right. And as so when the college coaches just started coming to practices, like how did you guys handle that? Like was that something like you really paid attention to, or you just were still dialed in on what you had to do that day?
So
Or was that a big distraction?
it wasn't a distraction only because we knew what we were still trying to work towards. So
Mhm.
we had people that were sending our practices anyway. So just seeing someone else in there, we didn't know if they were or weren't from a college because it depended on what they wore.
Mhm.
Um, but a lot of times, coach would tell us so and so is here at practice. You know, make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to. And sometimes he wouldn't tell us at all. So it was people being in practice wasn't the out of the norm. Like I said, the newspapers would be there or the camera would be there. It would always be something else going on that it was never a distraction. If you've ever noticed during our games, we have a crowd full and we only focused on coach. So it would never, we could hear that whistle over the crowd like none other, where you see people laugh at it, but when they do go back and watch film, they'll see all of our heads turn at the same time because we all have been trained to hear his voice only over a crowd. So we could tune things out. So the focus was already put there by him, and then, like I said, just kept being beat into us by each other on what we needed to do.
Right, right. Okay. So as the senior campaign starts off, um, how does it start from your expectation? Like I said, you super focused on the team, and like you said, at this point, you guys know what to do. You've seen it for 4 years. So again, like, does coach have to really coach you guys at this point for the most part, or you guys know the process, you know the expectations, and it's really just for you to go out there and execute?
It's really learning a new group now
Mhm.
because now it's me and Tanisha as starters, and we're adding to that other three on the court. So trying to figure out how that works. The new point guard, even though we play with you, now you're playing in the starting position, and was really trying to figure out. At that time, coach was starting different people with us to see who meshed well with us to start the games off. So with that, we probably tried 3, 4 different lineups, and it didn't stay the same till it was almost district time. And then we were like, okay, this is the group. So that year, me, myself, Tanisha, um, Amanda LeBlanc, Leanne, and Michelle was that starting group for that. And then number 6 coming off the bench was Elena. And then 7 was Makosa, and vice versa, depending on who he needed to pull in there um, in a different position.
Right. Okay. So, as you move into the playoffs, like you said, some of those players they may have had very small roles or no roles at all come playoff time the previous year. Like, do you and Tanisha have any different conversations with those players as the playoffs start?
No, we had the same conversations. I
Hmm.
think, like I said, our formula never changed. It was
Okay.
the same thing. It's like if you do this, this is the outcome. So it was like keep the same attitude, keep the same focus, and we'll get them a championship.
Mhm.
So they
Well,
understood.
and I just say that because sometimes some players respond differently in playoff situations.
Some
So.
do, but like I said, we were trained for specific situations
Mhm.
in practice. So he will run the clock down. Okay, you got 10 seconds. This is the play I want you to run. And we would run that play over and over. Okay, we got 5 seconds. We got 2 seconds. Like we would run those plays over and over and over in practice till, like I said, they became repetitious. From our inbound plays to our regular plays. And our plays were so simple. Like we talk about them now, but they were really simple. Really simple.
Right.
It was just based off of our own basketball IQ, how our strength and talents were, and they would everybody look. If you look at the box, your post start at the free throw line. You got your wings on the box. They come down, roll. Um, Set a pick for you. You pop out, and there's our set. From there,
Mhm.
it's like either we throwing it inside for them to work on it, or they throwing it back, kicking it to us for a shot. Like our plays were simple.
Mhm.
Like it was never just motion was simple. You know, it was never anything that was just hard.
Mhm.
So we felt like we ran those so many times that it became so natural that it was never anything that was just hard.
So do you think you guys were so successful based on just just talent was better than everybody else's, or did it have a lot to do with the system? Or I mean, maybe it's a combination, a little bit of both, but it's a
It was
little bit of a
definitely
loaded question.
it was a combination of all. From
Mhm.
I definitely believe we had the best talent, but we also had the best discipline. Um, and our coach was a coach that um, knew the game. So we made sure he poured that in each of us. So we were able to, with our own basketball IQ, see something on the court to be able to make an adjustment. Um, so with all of that together, I think it was just hard to stop. We were known for our defense. We loved defense. We didn't really care about, the offense part of it. It's like who gonna get the next steal, or that's how much we were in practice. We emphasized on defense so much. So we were like, we can stop anybody. We're not worried about them stopping us, but we can stop anybody. Is how we felt.
Right. Yeah. Well, and defense creates offense, right?
Correct. And that was drilled into us. And it was because I mean we shot layups after layups. Um,
Mhm. Right.
it was
Uh,
never tough.
so walk me through this playoffs of your senior year. How does that transition?
It was another smooth transition. Like we ran through the competition once again. We ran through the competition.
So, so
Um,
this is deja vu, right?
this is the deja vu. We ran through the competition. I think we played Bird. And like I said, once again, we already knew what they had. So
Mhm. Right.
if we just do the same thing, we'll be fine. We already beat them two, three times in district or at one of the tournaments and stuff.
Mhm. So take me back to that game y'all lost, the one game y'all lost that season.
We lost to Northwood, and to this day, I feel like that was so political. Every time we lost to them twice, my junior year, that was the only two games we lost, and once my senior year, only game we lost was to Northwood, and it wasn't. I didn't feel that they had better talent. I just felt like uh, Northwood and Southwood. You know, that was the rival game for them. Um, Jennifer Edwards was their golden child. Uh, I don't want to say it was because she was white, but I felt like that had a lot to do with it. Um, don't get me wrong, she definitely had talent. The girl could
Yeah,
play.
she
She
could
was
play.
right
Yeah,
for
she
the
could play.
miles. But I felt like they allowed a lot of things that she could get away with that we couldn't on the court, especially when they played against us. And it would just put us in a different headspace because we just could see it, happening, and we could do nothing about it. It wasn't based off of talent, off of what play was best. It was basically based off of she could do what she wanted to, and you get a little touch to her, y'all were going to get a foul, and it would just it would drive our blood up, but you wouldn't see it on the court for sure.
Mhm. Right, right. Okay, so like you said, you guys take care of business that year. So
Mhm.
three out of four.
Three
Um,
out of four. 3 out of 4.
and you mentioned earlier, so the season's in, and
Mhm.
you like you said, you guys not necessarily paying attention to individual stats, but you are deemed the player of the year for the city. So can you kind of walk me through that? Well, like whenever you found that out, and your
Well,
thought.
you don't find out till you read the newspaper. And like I said, my mom was one of those who read the
Right.
newspaper, but she, like I said, she did all the cutouts and everything. And um, I thought it was pretty cool to see everyone that actually made the first team, second team, and to know that those were some of your friends that you actually
Mhm.
are friends with and play with outside of this. And it was good. It was definitely, it'll put a smile on your face for sure. Like,
Right.
wow, okay, everything I worked for, is noticeable.
Right. Like how was that like, that next day at school when, obviously the teachers were talking about it a little bit.
I don't know if they were or weren't. I think they may say congratulations, um, but I don't really. The only thing I remember, the school really doing for us with those championships were actually putting our names up for, on the wall in front of the pits
Hmm.
for those teams. That's all I would really remember. The school, coach got us jackets and rings and all that stuff, and plaques and things like that that I have down there on the floor. Um, but outside of, I don't remember any teachers just being, and they may have been, well, they can always say congratulations,
Right.
keep up the good job, but I don't remember. Like I said, we didn't get no special treatment. I didn't. I wish I could have went to sleep and ate something in somebody's class, but mm, I didn't see any of that. I didn't get any of it. So if somebody
See,
else did, they
yeah.
showed didn't share. But I didn't
Uh,
have I didn't have any classes with my teammates either, which was weird. But
huh.
it was such a large school for us at that time. I didn't have any classes with my teammates.
Yeah, and that definitely could have been normal. I think at that point, most of those classes were around 400 or 500 each
Right?
class. So yeah, you
Yeah.
could definitely not have seen the classmate. I mean,
Mhm.
teammate. All right.
Mhm.
So the season ends. I mean, you're having these conversations about college. Um,
Having a conversation about college, and I have so many to choose from. Um, and trying to narrow it down was tough. And it even got to a point where I asked my mom, I don't even know if I want to continue playing basketball. I need to
okay.
really see if this is something that I want to do. But I still took all my trips, my official trips and unofficial trips. Um,
Where were your official trips?
so my official trips was to North Carolina State, New Mexico State, um, Penn, Penn State,
Hmm, okay.
and there was a college named Mercer in Georgia.
Oh, Georgia, right? I'm familiar.
Yeah, and then I had a whole bunch of unofficial trips. We're gonna say unofficial.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're gonna say unofficial trips. Uh,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I got to know the coaches really well at New Mexico State. Coach Anders, who I still call him coach to this day. Coach Ches. They um, they really made it feel like she would be okay if she comes here, um, and it was really, even though it was my decision, it was really my mama's decision. Where I went, because I had Louisiana Tech, um, LSU. I could have still stayed home if
Hmm.
I needed to, because after we had the All Star game, won the All Star game down in Baton Rouge that summer, the head coach at LSU was like, "I really should have pushed for you hard to come here." Um, and my coach in New Mexico State just happened to be there. He was like, "What you did?" So so I was like, "Okay." So ended up picking New Mexico State, had the signing and everything, and we made that 14-hour drive.
Mm, wow.
14-hour drive
Did
to
you? Well, I know you said you took an official visit there, but was that it? Like you had just went through there one time for the official visit, and the next time you were there, you were there for
yeah.
school.
So like I said, I had so many trips to go on. I was trying to take all of them, and I had that one trip. And actually, the girls that was there on that trip with me, we all ended up signing to go.
Okay.
Um, so transitioning back to there, once we got there, we got to the dorms, got set up. Coach had a gathering at his home, so we ended up going over there and eating and meeting everybody. Um, and then they let us know that we had to take some classes for the summer. So we took those classes. We would go play pickup at the gym and stuff like
Hmm.
that, get to know everybody. Um, and then we went on a team retreat where he took us out in the middle of nowhere, where it was like a river and like a cabin. And it was pretty much for us to mesh and become one and know each other and stuff like that. So all of my teammates to this day, we're still real close. We still have fun. We still get together. Um, so I think the
So
biggest.
how was the program? Like, I mean, like you said it was still kind of your mom's choice at the end of the day.
So the
But
program wasn't all that great
okay,
of a program. But I did, like I said, get to know the coaches well enough that made me comfortable enough to say, okay, I'll give it a try. But I was always pretty responsible. But I sat down with them when I got there to let them know that, I don't really know if I want to be this far away from home. I really don't know if I want to play basketball still, but I'll still give it my best, my best foot forward to just kind of figure it out.
so why do you think like you were at that point that you didn't even know if you wanted to play basketball anymore? Which is a very valid point. Like I said, you played so many games, like you play in really year round, like no off season.
So it just,
That was a point of exhaustion.
it was like,
So
do I really want this bad enough to be here? I think I was kind of burnt out. Like you said, playing year round, not really a break from it at any time. Um, Playing for a specific goal day in, day out. It just became like, I'm tired. I want to see if I can do something else. Um, but like I said, I still went, um, took my classes, and then we get slapped in the forehead with a 4:30 a.m. wake up call.
oh yes, welcome to college.
4:30, yeah, that 4:30 a.m. wake up call for preseason. We could be on the track one day we in the pool, um, the weight room. It just did not matter. We might had a 2 mile run up these mountains, and I was like, what is this? Like,
So there ain't no mountains in Louisiana.
right, like what's going on? So we would have, and if you needed treatment of any kind, which I never considered to be hurt. You would have to get treatment. So you in there at 3 o'clock in the morning if you had to get treatment.
Oh
So
yeah.
we would we did those things with coach, but it was never in the morning. So it was so running 2 miles and things like that was fine. We understood. I was fine with that. My coaches were surprised to see that I wasn't over on the sideline throwing up with a lot of other my teammates. It was just more or
Right.
less like, could we not have done this at a later date or a later time of the day? But no, we would get those in. We might have to swim laps. We might have to swim laps with your teammates holding your legs and they kicking you, pulling with your arms. Um,
Wow.
you running your 2 miles, but after your 2 miles, we might have an Indian run attached to that. Um, Anything that you could think of, suicides all day. But the kicker was for me is that after that, I got to go to class.
Yes.
So now I got to go to class. But then I have a schedule because after my class, I might have individual practice with my
Mm.
coaches where I'm like, okay, is this team practice or this more than team practice afterwards? You got individual practice. So I got individual practice now and rolled over into team practice. And then after team practice, you got enough time to go to get you something to eat, shower. Now you got study hall.
Yeah.
So, and then in there somewhere we didn't do in strength training. Now that was something that was different.
Okay.
We didn't do any lifting at Southwood. Not even. We went in there one time,
One time.
and coach was like, "Oh, y'all don't need that." So that was definitely something different. Strength training because a lot of the movements at that time, I was like, these movements don't make sense. Why? What is a snatch and clean? What? What? Like, you want me to do what? I was like, she made that look so easy. I'm like, in my brain is not calculating how to do what you asked because now I'm just picking it up and I'm
You
flipping
just-
instead of
right.
actually snapping. And so that was like the mental part of it for you know, it's like you want me to put this bar on my back and you want me to squat what and do who? No, that's probably not gonna work.
It's
Um,
like, no, I came here to play basketball, not lift weight.
like basketball, what we doing all this weight training for? Like, what is this for? I'm like, I'm stronger than all them already. What are we lifting for? But it actually became one of my favorite pastimes for sure.
Okay.
It was after because we actually had a really good strength and conditioning coach. She actually was a bodybuilder herself, and she would teach us why the movements we were doing for what power move and things like that. So it was good after understanding it. But before I was like, I couldn't even get out the bed the next day. I was like, this is not gonna work. This, this here, every ache, everything, my teeth hurt. This is not what it's supposed to be like. So
Right, right. So how did things kind of mesh with those teammates? Like you said, you met with a bunch of girls during that official visit, then you came back. Like, did all you guys kind of automatically kind of mesh and get along, or were there
we
some?
did. Like I
Okay.
said, everyone on the team, from our seniors on down, they were very just friendly. They were also from. I had teammates from Canada, Japan. I had people from California, from actually New Mexico themselves, Chicago, Illinois. Um, I think from Minnesota. I try to see where they are because I'm thinking of where they are now versus where they came from.
Mhm.
But yeah, we all mesh really well. Like I said, we still stay in touch now um,
Okay.
due to that. So yeah,
So how did you feel like you measured up? Like once you guys got to the practice court, like was it
you could
all right?
definitely see the different styles of play from the areas that people were from and things like that. Like Tracy and them being from Arizona, being 6'3", what we consider to be a power forward or a center in high school was definitely different than it was in. It was. I was like, I'm gonna have to get down here with they big tails. Like, who? He was like, but you could do it though. Like, you're at that perfect height where you can go, either way. And I would be like, do you see Tracy? And do you see Sue over here? She like 6'7". Who gonna block her shot? Like, I gotta take her legs out first. Like,
Right.
so it was that was the biggest transition also on the court is seeing bigger girls and
Hmm.
seeing them playing from how their styles of play. Like California play was different from Louisiana play,
Right.
as well as New Mexico. So those were kind of the biggest transitions. We had a lot of shooters on our team, so they could pop out quick.
Okay.
So yeah,
So what did you come in as? What did they slot you as? Like a three?
they slotted me again, all five,
All five. Okay.
all five, and I started at the 2-3.
Okay.
So depending on who was in at that time, that's how that went.
Uh, huh,
It
okay.
was it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, and I know like coming in, obviously everybody's asking questions like where you from?
Right.
What what are you ranked? How did your team do? Like, everybody's trying to fill each other out to kind of find out, well, how good are you?
Right. Well, they learned that out at when I came for my visit. Coaches they leave out you some tennis shoes that just happen to be your size,
Ah, okay.
uniforms, some pickup clothes. So you got to see what they was working with then. So they kind of already knew what they were looking at, you know, coming in. So they knew that we came with a lot of power from down south,
Hmm.
power and speed at that time. But like I said, coach was such a well-rounder when it came to us being able to shoot as well as drive, as well as post up, get out there, think. It was hard for them to try to figure out what it was that I was going to do, depending on who was guarding me. So for myself, it was pretty easy. What was nice to see was I had a teammate Melanie who was actually from New Mexico, Las Cruces area, who had also won a couple of state championships for New Mexico. And to see her come, I think Melanie might have been a good 5, 6, 7, but her power and speed was nasty.
Okay.
So that was good to see, that she wasn't scared either. She was Hispanic, but she fought. She was a feisty little thing.
Yeah.
Feisty. She could definitely give it to you anyway. Yes.
Wow. So how did the practice differ from your practices at Southwood to now you're at New Mexico?
Um, they didn't differ too much. I think Coach really carried out a college style type practice.
Mm-hmm.
So they were very
Yep.
similar. Like I said, the most of it is that you can run a longer practice
Mm-hmm.
in college
Right.
than in high
Right.
school. So that was more or less where you thinking, oh, we're gonna be in here a good hour, and you look up, they got the clock running, and you going, wait a minute, I got a whole nother hour to be in here with you. Like, ooh, geez.
Right.
So that was probably the another big transition was the
Right.
length of practices, and then treatment afterwards, going to get ice baths and getting rubbed down, things like that. So
So how did you view that, like as far as like that aspect of the game? Because like you said, unless you kind of got hurt or injured, is really when you would get any type of treatment in high school.
right,
But now it's kind of like a proactive type of
right,
deal to where they want you
right,
iced down,
yeah,
ice bags, deep tissue
absolutely,
massages.
right. So to know that you could go to the training room anytime to get a massage, or to get some kind of stem work, or just just take that ice bath or heat something. It was definitely different. I didn't use it frequently. Like I said, we old country.
Right.
I don't think anything ain't really bothering you like that. Plus, our coach was real proactive with. He made us tape our ankles before practice, in games, so no one really had any problems with their ankles or anything like that. And just the other parts of it, bumps and bruises, you just normally get just playing the game.
Hmm.
So,
So the practice, like you said, coach kind of coaching down prepared you guys for the practices. So how was the coaching styles different from just coaching
oh,
down?
they were loud. They were loud, vocal. Um, they weren't as I don't want to say meek as Coach McDowell, but they weren't as they were just loud. Coach wasn't a loud coach. He was more of a this is what we're gonna do, and you just went and did it. So to hear somebody yelling in practice and me going like, why are you doing all that yelling? You couldn't say that over that, or why is you cussing that girl out? Stuff like that. Coach didn't cuss, so that was the funny part. But that was my first time also having. I had two male coaches and two female coaches, so that was my first time having a female coach. I've only had male coaches,
Mm, okay.
so having female coaches was definitely funny, for sure. Because Coach Chen was a ball of energy. Coach Webb was she had just recently graduated from college with her master's, so she was still kind of around our age, you could consider. So she had just went from being like a GA to now she was the other assistant coach. Um, but Chaz definitely honed in on a lot of my dribbling skills. Like
Mhm.
um, she really helped me fine tune those to be more of a guard, because I was more of a power guard. Like I'm gonna
Mhm.
power pass you. I'm not gonna really do all these ins and outs. Like either I'm doing by you, I might stutter step you, I might go behind my back, something like that between my legs. She really harnessed in on just fine tuning, and she was like, "You haven't even scratched the surface of what you can do." She was like, "You don't even know it."
Mm.
So she would say things like that, and I would be like, "Lady, I'm working hard." If they see something different
Right.
than what you see. And then
Mhm.
Coach Anders was because I would have to go with her to guard practice, but then I would have to go with him to post practice, because I would have to, learn all of them. So that was definitely doing different moves with him as well. He just, harnessed in on footwork and stuff like that. So
It sounds exhausting.
very exhausting, a lot of brain work.
Right, right. And
Yes,
how's the film study different on that level?
film. the film breakdown was more or less we would see the team. Coach would like give snippets. Our head coach would give kind of snippets, more or less. It would be more of the assistant coaches that if we were in our individual practice, they would sit down and do more of an in-depth film study on what players they had, what their strengths and weaknesses were, what we're trying to accomplish. Different things like that when it came to those teams.
All right. So going into that, was college kind of what you expected it to be?
Uh, as far as school goes, like going to class, like giving me an option, that was definitely the funny part of it because I would go to class and then how you could go to class. I would go, like I'm going to school.
Hmm.
And you see people pulling there with their pajamas and flip flops, coffee, and like, this is what we do. So I start pulling up in my pajamas, head rack, and like, okay, so this is what we do. But I did well. I did
Uh-huh.
very well. Still A's and B's throughout that. But as the season, before the season started, so I did all the scrimmages and exhibition games. I really started to feel like I really wanted to do something different. So because Coach Andrews brought me in, I went to him with it and asked him, "Hey, can you call my mom? Because I don't know if I really want to be here." It was also a big culture change for me as well,
Oh
being
yeah,
in
absolutely.
Mexico. He was like, "Well, why don't you?" Um, his words was, "Why don't you just, take a step back? Let's not use your eligibility. Just stay and see if you can just kind of get through that part of it." And I was like, "Well, what does that mean?" He was like, "Well, we want you here. We don't want you to leave. Just stay." He was like, "And what we can do is do a red shirt." I had no clue what a red shirt was,
Okay.
and so he called my mom, explained it to her, and she was like, "Is that what you want to do?" She was like, um, "Cause you can always come home. Just like that. You can always just come home."
Oh,
I
absolutely.
was like, "Okay." I was like, "Well, let me just finish out the semester." That's what I'm thinking. Let me finish out the semester. Let's see how this goes. And I was still feeling the same way, but I still was going to every practice, still showing up. And that's when that was that small little point where me and my teammates probably got into it because they was like, "Why are you not trying to play with us? Like, y'all, you see what we do? You could really help us." And I was just like, "I don't know if I want to play." I was
Mm,
like, "I don't even know if I want to be here." I said, "It has nothing to do with y'all. It's just
right.
so much of a culture change for myself. I'm trying to figure out how to adapt."
Yeah.
So,
But I mean, you ain't getting anything Louisiana food out there, man. You eating salsa and taco.
man, when I tell you the food choices uh, were slim to none. When I found out they had a kitchen, I would go to the store. I would walk to the store across the street, and that's where I met one of my best friends. Um, he was like, "Where you from?" I was like, "I'm from Louisiana. Where you from?" He's like, "I'm from Texas." I was like, "Man, I finally found somebody." Man, like, oh my God. So he would walk with me across the street. We would go get chicken and all. We found the kitchen at the dorm because we had co-ed dorm. We would go in there cooking cookies and fried chicken and rice and gravy. Like, that was like the most home um,
Mhm.
I found.
Right.
So towards the end of that season, I sat down with my coaches and told them that I did want to go back home. Um, but Coach Andrews he was not having it. He was like, he was like, "Listen," he's like, "Even if you're not here, I want you to see if it's just something that you want to be close to home." And he was like, "I've already called the coaches out there." So he had called um, Coach Riley at Tyler Junior College. And Coach Riley called me at home and was like, "Hey, I want you to come through. I want you to see the facility and let me know what you think." So went out there, saw the facility,
So
and
you kind of, well, I like I said, you went this first semester and then you
I
came
actually
back.
went the whole year. I went
Okay, so you went the whole year. Okay, so
yeah,
you finished the year and then over the summer.
Over the summer,
Okay.
I went and saw her, and because she said, "Yeah, your coaches called. They told me that you're great. You haven't used your eligibility." She was like, "I really would like for you to come here." And I was again like, I don't even know if I want to play basketball.
Mm.
I was like, so, you know, me coming here is gonna do, do what? So she was like, well, why don't you just come for a semester? So I was like, okay. So I went to Tyler Junior College for a semester, not knowing that my name had gotten out. All the coaches started showing back up at Tyler
Mm.
Junior College, trying to figure out what is she doing. So when Kim Mulkey showed up and said that she was going to Baylor, I
Mm.
was like, but you at LA, you down Louisiana Tech, like what? She was like, I'm about to make a transition. If you want to come, you can come there. Like all these people started, showing back up. And so like I'm calling my mom, like, hey, she's like, what do you really want to do?
Right.
And I said, I want to go into the military.
Okay.
She was like, okay. She was like, then that's what you do. So December, the semester's over with, and I leave out in February. Straight to basic.
So was there anything before then that kind of had you looking to go into the military?
So like I said, my dad's prior
Right.
military,
Mm-hmm.
being there in Las Cruces, New Mexico, which is right by El Paso. So there
Right.
was a base that was there with me being a military kid of a father that retired. I had my card, so I would always go to base if
Okay.
I needed anything. So it was just an easy, um, like it just kind of felt right at
Mm-hmm.
the time to do. So that's
Okay.
what I ended up doing.
Okay. So like obviously you're still in communication with a lot of your old teammates and things of that nature. So how are those conversations as far as like everybody's on their at that point everybody's on their own path. They're doing different things.
Yeah.
Um, but you guys are still checking in from time to time. Like how are those conversations going as far as like you communicating to them like, I don't even want to play no more. Like were they trying to talk you out of it? Like, I
It
know
was
you were still in conversations even with Coach McDowell. Like how were those conversations?
So the girls on the team was definitely disappointed. They didn't want me to go. Um,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't understand, you know, why I would want to leave because that's all they knew. That's what they wanted to do. And
Mm-hmm.
I just tried to explain to them that not only was it a big culture difference for myself, I just wanted something. I wanted to try something different. What else could I do outside of basketball? That's all I'm known for. I said, and I'm not happy, playing
Mm-hmm.
basketball like that. I said, I still love playing, but not in an almost like a job type feel.
Job. Oh yeah.
So um, they understood because even when I went to basic, they wrote. They kept in touch throughout that entire time. Send letters, pictures, clippings, and everything of how the seasons were going and things like that. Even my teammate at Tyler Junior College, we are still in contact to this day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I actually have a couple out here that I definitely see quite frequently, if not every day.
Mm-hmm.
That we just all stayed in touch, built some really good friendships. So they would even write me and let me know they ended up winning the national championship for Tyler Junior College that year. She's like, "You
Okay.
could stay here and got your ring." I was like, "No, I'm not putting my ring anyway." So, um, did that, and Coach McDowell, like I said, he was always he always kept up with myself. I believe with the others as well.
Mm-hmm.
I will, how you doing? How are things going? And I told him that I was transitioning to the military. Him like any other person concerned. Okay, what's going on? Why you leaving? Is it grades? Is it this? Is that? No, sir, it's not grades. It's not anything of disruptiveness or anything like that. I just felt like it was something else that I needed to do. So
Mm-hmm.
he also kept up, with that as well.
Right, right. Another thing I want to ask, so like you were mentioning as far as like the school part of when you were in New Mexico and even at Tyler, because a lot of people I've spoken to, they felt like they were unprepared academically to go to college for whatever reason. I
Hmm.
mean, a lot of fingers were pointed at Southwood, but a lot of fingers had to be pointed at ourselves also
Right.
individually, because they even spoke to doing very well I think 3.5 and things of that nature at Southwood, but then they got into being on their own, having the opportunity to go to class on their own, and not necessarily being as successful, and even maybe not even understanding some of the content of what was being taught. Because if you're making A's and B's at Southwood, your expectation is I know what I need to go to the next level as it relates to entry level exams and classes for college, but they found themselves not even understanding some of the content that was going on in those classes. And then some of the conversations were like, well, I was trying to talk to my advisor, but I got 200 people in my class,
Yeah.
so you had to kind of wait to get to your advisor. So like, what was your experience overall academically as you transitioned into college?
So, like I said, it was pretty easy for myself. Like I said, we had study hall,
Hmm.
but outside of that,
Hmm.
my um,
Uh-huh.
my god sister, I don't know if you remember Sharon Frame that was on KSLA.
Okay.
She was an academia, so she would come over and make us write book reports. So I had other things outside of just school that I had to do. Um, that required me to have to think outside the box. So we also had foreign exchange students. Sharon had a foreign exchange student, Coco, that was from France, um, which I thought was amazing because Coco, when you think of French, you don't think of black people. And Coco was chocolate. Her name was Colette, but we call her Coco. And so we got to dive in deeper into other cultures and understanding. So Sharon made sure that we knew constitutions, knew how to speak well, knew how different aspects went. So it wasn't just Southwood only. I had an array of tutors outside of that I had to deal with on a day to day basis um, that prepared.
Right. Right. Okay. Uh, so going through the military, like how was your experience with that moving forward?
So basic was easy. You just have to be in shape. You just have to
Right.
get a time schedule with your sleeping patterns. Um, that was probably the toughest thing. You didn't know if you were gonna get woke up at 1 o'clock in the morning or what time you was going to sleep. How you learn quick that if you're not in the front of the line, you got 5 minutes to eat when the first person sit down. So by the time you get in there, you could be the last person. You got a minute to eat, so you shoving food in your mouth. So those are some of the biggest transitions during basic. Um, After basic, AIT comes up, which is your schooling for what you do in the military. I was a 92 Yankee, 92 Alpha. I got dual classes, so that is trend. If you look at it in the civilian world, it's supply chain management or logistics. So that's what I also have my degrees in those fields. So during AIT, which is still somewhat like basic, but it's also your school training, I ended up playing basketball while I was there. And at that time, you had to have a battle buddy of the same sex to go with you to be able to play. So that was the only way I could go and play with the guys because no other girls was playing. Was I would have to find a bottle buddy that didn't mind going to sit outside while we were going to play. So I found one of my good friends, Andrade. She would go because she was like, I ain't got nothing else to do. I might as well go with you. So our drill sergeants just happened to be out there at that time, and um, I think he had watched me play a couple of times, and he ended up calling me over, and got over there, and I was like, yeah, yeah, drill sergeant, what's going on?" He was like, "What you doing here?" I was, I said, "Well, I was just playing, basketball." He was like, "No, I'm trying to understand why are you in the military? What are you doing here?" He was like, "You should be in college somewhere." And I was like, "Well, I did that, but I just didn't. I just felt like it was something else that I was supposed to do." He said, "Well, you couldn't have been my daughter because you would have been in the military. Your boy would have been out there still playing basketball." He's like, "No, no, no." I'm gonna let you keep playing out here. I'm gonna let you keep on playing. He's like, but I'm sure gonna tell him. He said, but no, he was like, for real. He was like, if you, feel like you ever want to play again, um, they have a USA team, the military team,
Mm-hmm.
the all army team is what they call it. And I told him, okay. He was like, you should ask your first thing when you get to your duty station. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. I'll definitely look into that. Didn't look at it at all at first, but I would end up wanting to play on base, and I ended up meeting some of the girls that played on the all army team, and they was like, hey, you need to come try out, do
Mm-hmm.
this and that. And so I ended up doing it, started playing all army.
Oh,
Enjoyed it
okay.
only because it wasn't my job.
Yeah.
We would play other, through the universities and play other bases and things like that. I still had my job that I could separate from,
Separate,
which
right?
was good for me to be able to disconnect and
Mm-hmm.
do something different. And I feel like that was the only thing that I could do. So that's kind of how that
So,
went.
so how was the competition level there,
It was actually really good
brother? Okay.
because you had a lot of women who actually had played college ball, graduated from college, that were officers. Um, you had those who might have not went to college but could have.
Mm-hmm.
You had some who, was just natural hoopers
Yeah.
that could just play but just didn't do anything after high school with the military. Didn't really get the looks because of maybe the areas they were in. Social media right now is such a big avenue for a lot of these kids to be seen.
Right.
Everyone didn't have that after the opportunity coming from those towns, like Bastrop, Louisiana. Nobody's gonna go, to really see you, especially if you're on a big team that actually makes an area or nationals where you can get seen by a lot of coaches. You're only gonna get seen by little people around there. So they felt like it was a better opportunity for them to go into the military to start off. So
Right. Okay. So, do you how much time do you end up spending in the military?
10 good old years.
So it worked out. It wasn't just
It
a
did.
just a kind of a feeling.
It did. It worked out. I've been numerous places that I don't feel like I would have had the opportunity to go to, from Japan to Amsterdam, Italy, Dubai, um, London. Woo,
Mm. So
I can't
some
even think
great
of all
places.
the places that I've been, for sure.
Mm.
And
And
then
did you keep playing? Did you keep playing with the All Army team during that time, or
not on those tours, no.
okay?
I would play at the bases, but I really enjoyed my job. So I would take those breaks and go do that, and then I would come back and do
Okay.
those. So my last tour was to Iraq for 2 years. Um, so after that in 2009, I was like, I guess I'll hang these good old boots up
Hmm.
and come on back to the States.
Right. So how was that? I guess when you got into the military, just correct my math if I'm wrong. It was maybe when you got there, 2000.
2000, yes.
Okay. So you were in the military, obviously during 9/11.
Yes.
So can you speak to that a little bit? How was that experience?
I'll never forget that day. I was actually at sick call that day, and I was sitting in front of the TV because I hadn't been called back, and I was going in my mind, going, "What movie is this?" Like that's how I was looking at it because it wasn't dawning on me that it was actually not a movie. So when that second plane hit, and the people that were in the facility that was from New York, like they just lost it. So all of a sudden, they was like, we can't reach our families. We trying to call them, nobody's answering. Like they're scared. Um, so that was earlier that day. So roughly about, I want to say around 10 o'clock that morning. Now everything's on lockdown. So we have to go get our weapons. We got to get suited up, all those things. And that's when we found out that President Bush was on his way to Barksdale. So I was telling my mom and them, I'm calling them, hey, y'all need to get out of there. If they chasing him, y'all need to find somewhere else to go because that's not gonna work. You know, he tried to go straight there. Tell him the Air Force One to go somewhere else. It's like get away. So that day was just chaotic. Like I said, we was on 24-hour watch. I think I had finally laid down about midnight, and I got a call at like 2 o'clock in the morning. Like you got to open the arms room. You got to get the weapons out. I was like, so running over there, do that, check out weapons, make sure everybody, because now everybody's guarding everything. So next thing you know, we had our debriefing, and they were like, "We're preparing to go to war, and um, we don't know how soon we're gonna go, but start making your preparations. So if any of y'all have kids and things like that, who was your next in line? Like, start getting those things together." Um, so we didn't. Our unit itself ended up going out to train in California. So they have this big area called NTC, which is desert training. And we spent the full month out there straight training, sleeping in tents. I mean, it's cold out there. We got propane, little heater. We trying to stay warm. We got to go dig foxholes. I'm going to sleep in my foxhole. All kind of stuff. Like you tired after being there.
Yeah.
So we spent the entire month there. Came back. Go tell everybody pretty much kind of go on leave, go see your families and stuff like that. As you prepare to get ready to, you know, those are those that are actually going over. I'm not a frontline worker. I'm a
Right.
person who gives you everything you need to fight.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm so far in the back. It doesn't matter to me, like if we go or not, because I know that I'm not going out there to fight.
Right. Well,
Uh,
but even in the midst of that, I know, like you said, when you got in it for for whatever reason at that moment you were getting into it, but now
right,
that you see like, all right, we're going to war.
we're going.
Did anything go up in the back of your mind? Was like, I didn't really sign up for this.
So the parts that was most devastating for us was when we would see the contractors. So not really them getting to the military, them getting to those civilian contractors and the stuff
Mm-hmm.
that they were doing to them. That's what was tough and made you kind of like feel something on the inside of, okay, we can get there so we can assist the best way we can. But you have your frontliners, you have your infantry units, you have the Marines
Mm-hmm.
and all of that. So I ended up going to a Marine base in August,
Okay.
where I didn't hear, and I thank God for covering me the entire time. I didn't hear not one bomb on
Mm-hmm.
that base. No attacks, no nothing. I slept peacefully every night. I mean, every now and then you would hear someone, think something's happening, so you run into the bunkers and things like that. But we never had any incidents on that base. Now, when we flew into Baghdad, that's a different story. For
Okay.
sure. Baghdad was definitely you hear the bombs tap dancing to you, and you're looking out the windows to see if anybody's running. Like, do I need to start running? So
Mm-hmm.
you had a lot of people that had PTSD and things like that. Like I said, I'm grateful, thank God, I didn't have any of that. Come
Right.
so
Okay. All right. Like I said, so you get out in '09, and that chapter is kind of behind you. Um, so are your thoughts like, hey, I still like or maybe love the game?
so transitioning back, I always go see Coach. Like I said, we always kept in touch. I would go see Coach throughout the years. We would have conversations with the old players. So coming back, he was asking at that time, well, you need to come on over here and kind of, be like an assistant coach, and I was like, well, let me think about it. I don't really know if that's something that I want to do. I said, but I definitely think about it. So, um, actually got to know one of the coaches over at Green Oaks at that time, which was Shayla Kennedy. She was, I think at that time, she might have been going into her second or third year as a head coach there. And we ended up playing together on a semi-pro basketball team in the area in Shreveport. So we'll come up and see her coaching her girls and things like that. So she was in need of an assistant coach at that time. So I ended up actually accepting that position there as the assistant coach. And I told Coach McDowell, and he was like, I completely understand. He said they definitely need, you know, more of you all
Mm-hmm.
to assist in that area. So he was really okay with that transition.
Okay. So was it? You think you get back into it? Was that just you needed that break
I
for whatever?
definitely. Well, now you're transitioning from playing to actually coaching these kids now.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a different beast, uh, and a definitely different demographic going to on the
Yes.
Cooper Road, as we say.
Yes.
Those kids were guarded. Is the best
Mm-hmm.
way I can. Who are you and why you come over here? You know, and Coach Kennedy had already set the standard for those, and I just came right behind her with that same, uh, I guess, discipline
Mm-hmm.
that they needed to transition out of what everyone thought Green Oaks was
Mm-hmm.
to what we really saw that they were. Um, was it hard? Definitely. Those kids didn't trust the soul.
Right.
Um, so building trust with them, but also creating some stability with structure and discipline. And they really were a talented group of kids that I don't think got the acknowledgement they should have because of who they were.
Right. Well, and I guess just to drop a back line for people who may not know, like Southwood and Green Oaks are polar opposites
Yes,
as it as it relates to like where they are in the city,
yes.
as it relates to like you said, kind of like the demographic,
Mhm.
um, and even when you kind of talk about the affluence of each of those areas,
Absolutely.
Southwood was on one end, Green Oaks was on the other. So, when Crystal speaks to a lot of those players being guarded, I mean they had to deal with a significantly a significant more amount of issues
Absolutely.
than a lot of the players at Southwood may have had to deal with as far as single parent homes or no parent homes,
Correct.
crime in the neighborhoods, and just a myriad of other things. So
Yeah.
her going into that situation, I know a lot of people probably would have been like, why? Well, of all schools,
Why not go over here where they still winning championships? uh, and go over here where they killing consistently. Like some people just don't walk down the street, but I felt like I had something that our youth needed to see,
hmm
especially young women of color needed to see that other women of color how they carried themselves, how you should carry yourself, just because of where they were, you didn't have to fall in those stereotypes. So we wanted to make sure that we created um, a different view of what and how women of color should carry themselves outside of what you do. So every time we would go to to the games and stuff, or if they if if they so if we had games or anything, we would dress up for those games, you know, come in our suits with our heels, with our hair done, different things like that, so that they could see that you didn't have to wear footwear uh, to be noticed or seen. You can carry yourself as a lady at all times. So we wanted to make sure that that was prominent first and foremost, and that we cared about you, and that really made them open up to us. Like they
yes,
bought into what we were trying to drill to them, and they really did become one of the staples of the city as far as basketball went. They were a great group of talent. Like I said, there's a few of them that played there that I feel like should be known forever through the city of Shreveport, Bossier,
right.
because of their talents for sure.
So do you think it took, like when you're saying, eventually their guards, kind of came down, like, you think that was like a season long process, or like how long did you think like it kind of took for the team to start to accept you guys and the implementation? Because like I said, you kind of came out of nowhere, and they were like, "Well, who is this lady? She probably talk kind of funny. She don't talk like us."
Right, right.
And now you making us run, and you want us to dress up like
Right.
I know it took some time for them to accept that change.
It did. They definitely. It probably took probably the entire year. Just breaking down different um, strongholds that they had and notions of people and just trying to get them to buy in and why they should buy in and things like that. But once they did, like I said, our senior class from that freshman year to their senior year, we had every senior sitting on stage. So we were big on academics. We would talk to them through the process. Um, my military would kick in real strong. I'd be like, everybody not going to college. Everybody that don't have the talent, you're not getting a scholarship. So we need to
Right.
find other avenues and
Mhm.
start you off in for. And a lot of them ended up going military, going on to basic training in their junior year into their senior year, so that they had money for college. So we made sure that we walked them through every process possible to make sure that they were successful outside of the Cooper Road, as we would tell them that you're bigger than the Cooper Road. I definitely want to see you outside of this. Don't think that this is the only area that it is. Go out and actually see different parts of the world. So if you can go off to school and go out of the state of Louisiana, definitely do it.
Right. Well, and I think that's big also, just kind of what you're speaking to as far as some of the results that you were getting out of them. So
Hmm.
two totally separate, parts of the city,
Yeah.
expectations are different. But if you put some of the same foundational principles in place, you can get the same results out of those kids.
And we did. We
Hmm.
did. We definitely got it. Like I said, their talent pool, like I said, wasn't as great because they didn't have that many kids that attended that school.
Hmm.
But what we had, we were able to work with, and I feel like if we had just a few more kids that we could have put on the team, we definitely could have won some state championships there, for
Right.
sure.
Right. Okay. So you kind of spent some time there. Like how long did you stay, and then when did you decide to kind of transition out of coaching?
I was there from 2010 to 2014. So once that group that we were there with graduated, um, Coach Kennedy accepted a coaching job at Southern of the Cooper Road. So we were able to transition over there, as well as bring some of those kids over there on scholarships to have an opportunity to pay for school. So that was the biggest thing that we put instill in them, that school is important. Make sure that you have your education, because basketball will not always be there. We're living examples of that. Make sure that you have your degrees to fall back on to be able to, move forward and be successful. So with us having an opportunity to bring that same group or some of them with us was good, because it gave them opportunity to further their education, um, as well as us being able to keep up with them, make sure that they were still on some kind of
Hmm.
path and transitioning well into adulthood. For some of them that we knew that weren't self motivated or self started.
Right.
Yeah,
Hmm. Well, sometimes, like you said, if you don't have the support systems in place,
right,
at a certain age, it's kind of hard to, kind of go backwards and try to put those, try to implement them. It's difficult.
and it was good for us because they already knew what we expected, so it was easier for them to the other kids on those teams that were either coming in or were still there when we took over. They could pretty much kind of let them know what we expect and what was the expectations, um,
Right.
so that we don't get in trouble. Pretty much
Right.
type thing. Uh, yeah.
Right. Absolutely. So, what type of advice would you give, like, high school, college players now, just based on your experience and some of the things that you learned, some of the things you've experienced? Like, what are maybe two or three pieces of advice you would kind of pass on?
Definitely, first and foremost, keep God first. First, talk to Him about everything. before making a decision. Second, if you do have the opportunity to play a sport in college, use that sport to pay for your schooling, regardless if you want to be there or not. That's that I will say. Let school pay for your college, uh, your sport for
Okay.
schooling. But a lot of people don't have that opportunity. If you have it, definitely use it to your benefit.
Great, great. So, would you advise a player, say if it was a pretty decent player, would you advise them to go to a high school that was had the opportunity to be a little bit more successful than one that would not? Like, how do you judge? How would you help advise a player in today as far as how they would choose a high school to go
I
to?
wouldn't in today's society because you have such a social media following. If you're a good player and you have good content that you can put up that draws in enough followers, they'll find you. So it doesn't really matter which school you go to. If you're definitely depend on what's your end goal, what you're trying to do. Are you trying to win championship, or are you just trying to get stats, or what is it that you're trying to do? Is basically what I'll say as far as what high school you should attend.
Okay.
To be based
All
on
right.
what's your end goal.
Right. Okay. All right. We'll get some quick hitters so we can get you out of here.
Okay.
So my first question would be, who is the best player that you've ever played with?
The best player I've ever played. That's
Now,
a tough one.
that's saying a lot. College, high
Right.
school, AAU, Southwood, and
Uh,
if you got to throw in two, we'll take two.
um, this females.
How about one female, one male? We'll do that.
Female, I would say the best player I've ever played with would be on the All American team. Gwen Holt. She was a beast. About 6 foot, 6'1", all around player. She could just go. There wasn't nothing that you could really do with her.
Okay. And where was she from?
Gwen from New York.
Oh, New York. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep, from New York.
And then the male.
Male players. Um, Tony Bryant. I probably would say him and Pooh Davis were nice. I don't think they got enough accolades
Right.
for sure.
I would agree with that. Gotta gotta not lose a fair park in the second
Now, don't
round.
get me wrong. Now, in college, I had Billy Keys. He would have played overseas for a little while. He was
Right.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Next one. So who is the toughest player that you've ever played against? And I would say that's kind of defense and offense. So when you're on offense, like who the toughest defensive player you played against, and then when you were on defense, like who gave you trouble offensively?
On defense, I would say Takesha Lewis. She
Okay.
played at Louisiana Tech. She was. If you ever seen the article of the girl dunking, that's her.
Okay.
That's Takesha Lewis. And the toughest player for me to play against would be Tanisha Butler. Like I said, her footwork was nice,
Okay.
absolutely, and she was strong.
All right. Okay. And who do you like to watch now?
It's tough. I'm in the DFW area, so I try to get out to the Dallas games, get
Hmm.
to watch them play. But I watch everything, so it's not just one specific
Hmm.
sport that I watch.
Okay.
So I got the football, basketball, baseball.
Hmm.
Um, but as far as what I watch more of, I can't say.
Hmm.
It's a
Is
combination
there
of all
Are there any specific players that you
that
not
I
necessarily?
enjoy.
Yeah. That you. Hmm.
Basketball's so different nowadays. I grew up in the 90s, 2000 era where there was teams, like people actually stayed on a team. Um, and you can name all the players on the team.
On the team, right,
Back
right.
then, now I can barely tell you who plays on who. You know, I know Curry, Durant, you know,
Mm-hmm.
Kyrie Irving, LeBron James, AD. You know them, but it's like y'all don't stay in one place long enough to say, well, who team they on now? So um, I think all of them have something that they bring to the game for sure. Um, but I'm a Magic fan, so LeBron gives me the most Magic feel. So I probably would say I like
Okay. All right. If you had to go play a game on the blacktop on the court, indoors, outdoors, and you had to bring four other players with you, who would those four players be?
four other players on the black
Four
top.
that you've either played with or played against. Four people that you would put on your squad to
Girls or
go,
boys?
girls or boys.
Oh, definitely Pooh and Tony off the rip. For sure. Um,
Okay,
I would
so
definitely
you
select
need two more.
Elena, uh,
Oh,
and Misha McCloudon. Now she known as Misha Duncan.
okay, yeah, that's
You got
solid. Good.
3 6-foot girls, and then you got 6'6" and 6'2". So
Yep,
yeah, pretty solid.
very solid. Okay.
Pretty solid.
All right. And last question, like who would you like to who likes to see next on the podcast?
Ah, I would definitely like to see Pooh Davis, uh, Tony Bryant, um, Johnny Qualls, um, Tanisha, any of the ladies
Right.
uh, from Southwood for sure, from our era on down, to just see what their transition throughout the years was like, to see how it changed and stayed the same for the championship. Any of them would be great.
Right. Yeah, because I assume a lot of their perspective is a lot different than yours.
I'm sure. I'm sure their perspective, like Kosa and Elena, would definitely want to see their perspective after we left. How they felt and things like that.
Right.
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, all right. No, thanks for your time. I appreciated the story. I learned a lot, so it was definitely pretty cool, man. I know everybody else will be interested, and they can stop calling me and asking me about it. I'll be like,
Well,
all
I
right.
think I gave a lot of information. I think it was just, I think it was pretty bland myself. I ain't.
No, it was good content. No, I think everybody will get a lot out of it. So 'cause that's
Yeah.
like I said, that's the number one thing I hear. It's like, well, when is Crystal coming on? So I was like, I
I,
can tell everybody.
I hope everyone is doing well. All is well on this end. Nothing's changed for the most part. I try to hoop when I can, but these knees and feet don't act up all the time. They don't act right. So
Right, right. All right. Well, no, we appreciate your time and
thank you.
no, thanks.
Thank you for listening to the More Than Sports podcast. Please like, subscribe, and set your notifications so you can be up to date on new content. Also, if you have a story you'd like to share, please reach out to us at mystory@morethansportspodcast.com.